Hello ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to make a video today on 3 different levels of slime farming, everything from get it up in an hour and get it quick, all the way up to getting a massive amount of slime balls. So whether you just need just a few slime balls in your world for maybe some sticky pistons, or you need a whole crap ton of slime balls to make slime blocks and flying machines and world eaters and scaffolding and all that, this has got it for you. So let's get into it. I got some really good feedback on one of my previous videos, the 3 levels of wither skeleton farming. There seemed to be a little something for everyone, whether they wanted something quick or something that just really churned out the numbers. That video seemed to have it all for everyone, and so I want to do the same thing with slime today. We're going to be looking at 3, technically 4, but one of them's kind of a mix, different farms for slime farming. First, we're going to see an overview video of the different designs, and then I'm going to go into the different mechanics of slimes, as well as how to find a slime chunk, and then we're going to get into each farm individually. So if you want to skip ahead, look down in the video description. There will be timestamps to get to those different sections, and we're going to start it now. So we're going to start off with the mechanics of slimes, and first is their spawning mechanics. Now, slimes won't just spawn anywhere in the world. They'll only spawn in 2 different places. One being an actual slime chunk, so there are certain chunks in the world that are slime chunks. Otherwise, they can also spawn in swamps, in the same spawning mechanics as other mobs of any level, except they need to be in light level 0. Since swamp spawning can be difficult to control, the ideal way to farm the slimes is going to be using the slime chunks. And if you don't know what the chunks are, if you're on Java, again, this won't work on Bedrock, but press your F3 and G key on your keyboard, and that's going to bring up your chunk borders. Now, certain chunks within the world, in each Minecraft world, are labeled as slime chunks, meaning that that chunk can spawn slime. So if it's a slime chunk, it can spawn slimes below Y level 40 all the way down to negative 64. So above Y level 40, you will not get any slime spawning. You have to be down below positive 40 all the way down to negative 64 they can spawn. We'll go over a little bit later how you actually find out which ones are slime chunks. But the other nice thing about being able to use these slime chunks is slime and slime chunks do not care about light level. So if I turn on my light level overlay here and we see I have light over here, they can still spawn there. And in fact, let me grab a carpet and I'll put down a torch right there and a carpet right next to it. And we can see down there in the chat, the only thing that can spawn there is a slime. The only thing that is green that has a will to spawn. Because of the light level, everything else's will is 0%, but the slimes still have a will of 8%. That means that it's actually really easy to control inside your slime chunks getting slimes, because all you can get to spawn inside your slime chunk is a slime. Slimes inside that slime chunk can also spawn on any type of spawnable block. So it would be able to spawn on deep slate or obsidian or stone, wood, but would not be able to spawn on glass or bedrock or leaves, things like that. Slimes are also one of the dumbest entities in the game. If you check out Nembomb's videos on slime farming, literally they have the least amount of programming of most of the entities in the game. Armor stands have more AI than a slime does. So we can see that if I was to spawn a creeper up on top of this platform here, and I'll just put this right there, that creeper is going to look and know that it can't get off this block without falling to its death, and it's going to stay there. However, if I do the same thing with a slime, it doesn't care. It's just going to bounce around until it falls off. Slimes also do not check to see if they can reach another entity when they are pathfinding to it. So I'm here in survival mode, and now these are locked onto me, so they're tracking me, but they just want to go in a straight line. They're not going to try and go around this fence at all. They will just keep jumping right into it because they don't pathfind around objects. So they will pathfind right off of the edge of a platform down to their deaths. Whereas if I took a creeper and put it over here, that guy will walk right around the fence to try and get to me. We do also have a lot of ways that we can kill slimes as well, because they take damage from a lot of the normal things that the player would, such as magma blocks, wither roses, lava, and they would take damage in powdered snow. Oh my god, it's so slow. They will also float on water and swim up when they fall into it. And even the biggest slimes don't need a very long fall distance in order to die. However, you will notice one of the things about slime is the big slimes do spawn 1 to 4 medium slimes, and each medium slime spawns 1 to 4 small slimes. The medium and large ones won't drop any slime balls. It's just the small ones that will drop slime balls on death. Now, since slimes and their pathfinding is so dumb, we can't use very much to try and corral them. We could just hope that they fall off on their own. However, there is one thing that they will track onto that's not a player. They will track onto iron golems. So we're going to use these guys to our advantage in building these farms to try and bring in our slimes to kill methods. When it comes to finding the slime chunks for your slime farm, there are 3 basic options. Either you're using mini HUD, you're using chunk base, or you are using time. The first option with mini HUD, you will need access to be able to run the seed command. So either you need to be in a single player or on a server that actually allows access to that seed command to players. Once I type that in, mini HUD will accept that seed, and then I can turn on the slime chunk overlay. And it's going to show me with these green boxes which chunks are actually slime chunks. So if I turn on the chunk borders, I can see that those line up with where those chunks are. So everything inside these green chunks is a slime chunk. If you either don't have access to MiniHUD or don't have access to that /seed command on your server, but your server owner is still willing to share the seed with you, then you can use this website, the chunk-based website. There is a slime chunk finder that will show you the locations on this map and give you the coordinates of where these slime chunks are. If you don't have access to either of those options, unfortunately, this is going to take a bit of time because there is nothing above ground to display or denote what would be a slime chunk and what's not. So you have the option of exploring caves below Y level 40 and seeing where slimes spawn and marking that down as a slime chunk, or dig down in the world and outline each of the chunks inside either walls or fences. So on one side of the walls or fences inside the chunk, one side have them outside the chunk, and then just repeat this over a large area. This large area might be a little overkill, but as you can see, even in this area, I don't see any slimes. So you've got to come here, dig this out, center these walls on the chunks, and then wait for a slime to spawn in one of them. And that way you know that this chunk right here where this wall is, this is a slime chunk. You can see that slime chunks are actually pretty prevalent, but there will be large gaps so there won't be any slime chunks. So here we have almost nothing, and here we have a large group of them together. Unfortunately, that's the nature of the slime chunks, and if you don't have access to the seed, this is really the only way you can do it, is either by just waiting for one to naturally spawn in a cave and marking down that chunk, or by doing a setup like this. So if you don't have access, sorry, this is rough without the seed. So that's a little crash course on the mechanics of slimes and the slime chunks. Now we're going to get into each one of these farms individually. So when you get the world download, this is where you're going to spawn in front of these command blocks to teleport you to the different farms. Once again, there will not be lightmatics in this video because every farm is going to be different shape and that type of thing. So there will be this world download with all 4 of these designs in here, and we're going to run through them now, starting with the first one. This is version 1. This is a very quick and dirty farm. This is the kind that you can get up in under an hour, provided you already have like the iron that you need in order to get this up. Otherwise, you got to find the iron first. But all we're using here is we're using some campfires and some water to push the slimes into the campfires. And luckily for us, hoppers can pick up items through a campfire. So when they die and the ball lands on the campfire, it won't burn because campfires don't burn items, but the hopper can suck it up and we can collect them. And we just have another row of hoppers here just to catch anything that falls off from the edge, because they can then sometimes have their item fall off to the side when they die instead of right where they died. We're only using 2 spawning platforms here, and we can see that this is a slime chunk. So I've filled up the entire slime chunk with the 2 spawning platforms, and then just on the outside of the slime chunk is where we actually do the kill collection, because we don't want to take up any of our spawning room with this stuff here. Now this is an example, again, very quick and dirty, so only a couple spawning platforms. We're using the golems around the trapdoors to lure in the slimes. And then what we've done so that we don't have to do any spawn proofing around is we've picked the middle of an ocean for this location. So if I raise up the spawn chunks, we can see, or excuse me, slime chunks, we can see where those are in the ocean. And the nice thing about that is we don't have any above ground land to do spawn proofing on. And even below ground, a lot of the caves are going to be filled with water. We can see here, this cave is filled with water. There's a glow squid swimming in it. There's a bunch of water in this cave. We can see that way. So a lot of these areas are already taken care of for the spawn proofing for us. We do have, you can see down here, we have some caves down here that have some mobs spawning in it. But then we've put the AFK spot all the way up here at 145. So you can see right in the top left there, 145. So if I go there and go into free cam, my player stays up there. And now those mobs are not down in those caves because they're too far away from the player and the 128 despawn radius. So now the only thing that can spawn in here is slimes, because we have the torches for the light level. Again, you'll notice though, this is not going to be churning out slimes left and right. In fact, it's sometimes going to take a while before you see a couple of slimes. And if I log the mob caps, we can see we do have 6, so there are a couple little spaces somewhere, and there's 5. But we have plenty of room in that mob cap to allow a slime to spawn when it's ready to do so. So as you can see, we are getting a few of them, and they're very quickly locking onto that golem and wanting to go towards that golem, so they'll go straight to the fire. You could help these rates a little bit by taking out all the water and the blocks above your spawning platform. That wouldn't be too much to clear out, with the water if you've got some sponges, or just filling it with sand if you want to do that. However, I think there are some better options for when you really want to amp this up. This is good for, I need to get up my early game. I need a few sticky pistons for one of my other farms. I need a flying machine for that farm. But when you want to start getting to the point where you have enough slime blocks to use the scaffolding blocks, then we need another level. If you do want to know about clearing out that area and what that does by clearing out the spawning platforms affecting the height map, check out my YouTube video on the height map and pack spawning crash course. And that's what we're going to take into account in this next design. So let's head over there. So this design, same thing. We've gone out in the ocean. We did have an island to light up over there, but that's not much. It's like 12 torches. You're fine. But we've actually found a 3 slime chunk configuration. And in this case, I just picked one that was this shape. You may find one that's a straight line or an L shape, something like that. I like the idea of this shape because what we're doing is we're using stacks of iron golems standing on trapdoors so that on each spawning platform here, they have a spot that they can see those golems. So if you had this in an L shape, you wouldn't be able to necessarily get all the golems out in the far corner because they don't track that far. It's only about 12 blocks, but a chunk is 16 blocks. So you can have slimes just wandering around out there. In this configuration, we've got some golems here, some there, one there, tower there, tower there, and tower there. So 6 towers of golems in order to draw out our slimes. We also, like I was suggesting earlier, have cleared out all the area above the spawning platforms to bring down that height map just a little bit more. So that's our spawning platforms. And then also added the spawning skirts, so we cleared out a lot more than the slime chunks. So if we turn on the slime chunks, we can see here, this is just the area of the slime chunks, but we've cleared out a lot extra, and that's so that we can have that extra spawning platform with the extra height map. Once the slimes get attracted to the golem, they wander over, they fall down that hole. Sometimes the golem smacks them, sometimes they hit the ground. But there we go. We can see we're dropping them on magma, and then we have hopper minecarts running underneath, picking everything up. And then the hopper minecarts are coming over to these hopper minecart unloaders and spinning out all the items into a water stream. And then we have collection over here, collection over here, and collection over here. Then they all go to the same location, up a bubble column, and into storage. You could replace this with shulker loaders at this point. You've probably got a shulker farm, but if you don't, you can still just give yourself a bunch of extra hoppers and be fine there. You will notice, though, I do have the despawn sphere turned on here, and so that despawn sphere is set for being in this position right here. The reason being is we didn't need to spawn proof anything last time because we were so high up in the air, and the few caves that we did touch were then filled with water already. In this case, we're going to need to do some spawn proofing because we want to use everything all the way down to the bedrock level. And even though we're going to have a bunch of caves that are already filled with water, there are going to be areas that are not filled and going to need to be spawn proofed. So for example, this mine shaft here does not fill in with water. So that needs to be found and filled in with, I just use glowstone in this case, whatever. Torches, you could put down pressure plates if you really want to. So that now, when I look at mob caps, we can see we're up at mob cap, but we're still getting a lot of slime spawning because we've taken care of almost everything outside of that area. If you're not using something like FreeCam to be able to find those caves, this is going to be a much more difficult task because you're going to have to find those caves by naturally exploring and digging around and that sort of thing. But without it, this slime farm, even with all these spawning platforms, because the way that the mob spawning algorithm works, again, check out that video on the height map and pack spawning, you're still going to get about as few spawns as you would in the first version of the farm. So all this work would be for naught if we didn't spawn proof that area outside. So that needs to be everything in the 128 block radius from your AFK spot. You probably noticed in the early video I said 3 levels of slime farming, and I'm still sticking with 3 levels of slime farming, but in this video we actually have 4 farms. This is a similar concept to version 2. You're going to be doing a lot of the same levels of work, but this is Ilmango's concept for slime farm, and I do think it's worth mentioning because you don't need the sheer number of iron golems. So let's take a look at that as well. So as you can see here, we're still in an ocean. I've still got the same 3 spawn chunks set up, and we're going to get the same rates as the previous farm. They'll be comparable depending on how much spawn proofing you do, because this same thing, you still need to make sure that everything is spawn proofed around that area. And in this example here, you can see with all the glowstone, we didn't get as many water caves. So that's going to be a big deal when it comes to having to spawn proof all that stuff. However, what we have here is portal spam. So these slime chunks are filled all the way up with nether portals, and because slimes are not affected by light level, they can still spawn in the portals. Notice we do have some zombie pigmen, but again, this is from Ilmango's concept. You just have some trapdoors and some turtle eggs, and the zombie pigmen want to jump on it. They fall down here, die, nothing to worry about there. But this means that any slime that spawns within this slime chunk is immediately going to get teleported to the nether. This also makes item collection much more easy, because now we can just do a separate system inside the nether. And all we have here is we just have this portal. Each side has 3 air blocks, so even the large slimes can fit through it. And then they fall down. They take full damage and die, so the large ones turn into their mediums right away. The mediums turn into small right away, and the smalls just die right away. And then we just have 3 hopper minecarts going over hoppers, and each of those hoppers goes into its own chest line, so that we don't have to do any fancy item collection. It just picks it up from right underneath. So I just spawned a bot in the overworld at that slime farm so we can start to see those rates coming through. And we can see as they fall down, they're going to start taking very quick damage. We don't have too many collisions going on in there. But again, we're looking at about 40,000 slime balls per hour with that setup with the 3 slime chunks. This method, even though it's using the nether system, is still single player friendly. You do not need a bot in the nether, because what's going to happen is each time one of those slimes comes through the portal, it's going to reload this area in a 3x3 chunk around the portal. And so those slimes, since they're falling and dying so fast, and then new slimes are coming through all the time, as long as someone is at the farm spot in the overworld spawning those slimes, then the nether is going to load itself. So this is still single player friendly. This is still hardcore friendly. This is still friendly on a server where it's not a community server and you don't have carpet bots, things like that. So you don't actually have to be in the nether for this collection to work. Again, if you want more information on this farm design, check out the video by Ilmango on his slime farming technique, and I can give you more details about this. Final version of this video is going to be, again, what I've labeled as approaching OP. There are options you can do to make it really OP that I can discuss a little bit at the end of this, but we're just going for a little bit more attainable, maybe more of a single player farm, or something that a non-technical server may still be able to pull off if they work towards it. Here we're at a little over 200k. It was hovering at about 210, 212. So let's take a look at this one. Here we have a perimeter slime farm with sliced portals. So you'll notice we have these different formations in here. There are 28 slime chunks inside this perimeter. So if I turn on the slime chunk, you can't even really see it anymore. But each of those is its own slime chunk, so there's 28 in total. This is something, this perimeter, that you could do either with a world eater, such as the ones by Ilmango or Pixels. You could hand dig this out if you really wanted to. This is going all the way down to bedrock level. And then we just filled it in with water to spawn proof. You could also use glass or pressure plates or carpet, whatever you wanted to at the bottom layer. But then each of these slime chunks, so if I turn that back on, you can see once again the entire slime chunk is filled with portals, but we have no tops of the portals. So this would be using update suppressors to slice the portals. And that's not really something I feel like I can cover because I don't have the technicals on that. However, you can look up nether portal slicing with an update suppressor on YouTube, and there will be other instructionals out there. But what we've done here, again, if you've watched that height map video, is taken the height map on the portal even further down. Now, if you're on a server that doesn't support this, or you're on a server that can't do this, such as maybe like a paper server or something like that, that wouldn't be able to handle the portal slicing, you can still build it with full portals. You are going to cut into the rates a good deal, maybe taking only about 2/3 of the rates away from this farm, but it would still work. And that's what I had originally done on my first perimeter slime farm, is just had normal portals down here. They weren't sliced or anything. But as you may have seen while I've been talking, the slimes are spawning and they are immediately going to the nether, just like we saw in the other version. But because we have this entire perimeter and the height map is so low, we are getting spawns every single game tick here. And even though we are getting a few zombie pigmen, we're not really worrying about them, because here, if I look at the mob caps, and I'll bring the slime bot back over to me, but you can see we are not that high in the mob cap at all. So we're just removing them immediately from the mob cap. There would be a couple of ways to make this faster. One would be to actually get rid of the bedrock and build these obsidian floors of the portals actually down at Y-64. There are a lot of machines that can do bedrock breaking. I really like the one by Vitamin C. You can check that out in, I believe, the Slimestone Tech Discord. Otherwise, you could do manual breaking again in a big perimeter. That's going to be a lot of dedication. But then you're actually taking the height map down even further. Another step you could do at that point, there seems to be a lot of debate over which actual pattern of portal works, because even though they're getting teleported immediately out, you're still raising up the height map to the top of this block right here. So you still have slimes trying to spawn on the top of this. So sometimes they're only doing a checkerboard pattern with these types of portals. So you would get something like this at the end result, and then your height map on a lot of those blocks is only up to here instead of all the way up to here, and get more spawns. But again, that's when you really want to push the limits. Even if you were to do the version that had the full portals here, you didn't do any portal slicing and just covered the portals in carpet or trapdoors or slabs or something like that. A setup like this with this many slime chunks and a proper perimeter, you're still looking at, probably about 130,000 slime balls per hour. What I have also done is, whether you decide to go with the portal slicing or keep it that way, I have made the nether killing system on this also single player compatible. Unfortunately, one of the questions I seem to get the most from my wither skeleton farming video in version 3, that was a 2-dimensional farm, is how can I do this on single player? And unfortunately, because you need a player or a bot in both dimensions, if you are playing vanilla and it's only single player, you do not have the option of building that farm. It won't do anything. So what I've done with this is I've made that killing system so it can be single player compatible. So everything with this kill collection and the item collection is in the same 3x3 chunk grid based around the portal. If you, again, don't have the ability to do the portal slicing, this one I would definitely recommend if it's just a question of having the time to do it. You only have to do one update suppressor for this. But this would still work if you extended it out to the 6 wide. You would just have to redesign this portion of the system a little bit. But what we have here is we have these, and let me turn my game sounds down. We have these tripwire hooks here that are what's actually starting off the clock to run the item collection system, so that anytime a mob falls through it, it activates it. And because this portal is in the center of these chunks, the slimes coming through that portal are going to keep this portion of the nether loaded continuously, so you don't need a player here in order for it to operate, just by making sure that everything is in that chunk loaded grid. We have the slimes falling down onto magma blocks, so the ones that are falling take their fall damage and die. The ones that aren't take their damage from the magma blocks. And then we're using trapdoors on a cycle to push everything down into the center hole. We have another magma block down there in case a small slime falls through, because they'll take damage as soon as they hit that, so they'll die. Then once again, a trapdoor pushing it off. The reason we're using trapdoors here is because slimes will still take damage on top of a trapdoor that is on top of a magma block, so they'll still read that magma block damage. Whereas if it was a slab, they wouldn't take any damage, so we'd be slowing down their killing. And then we're just using honey in a chest to align the items, slimes to push it over. The reason I pushed it over here and back is, once again, so that we could fit everything inside that chunk grid with single speed shulker box loaders. And then here's that system that automatically turns on based on the mobs falling through. Those tripwire hooks activate this redstone, which turns on this comparator pulse extender, which then activates this clock right down here, sets off the pistons in their cycle, and then everything is timed out so that even when the slimes stop coming through, we're still extending this going for a little bit to catch all the drops that are coming off of them. That is going to be it for this video. Again, the idea behind this video is more to talk about different methods of slime farming, not what is going to be the absolute perfect slime farm. Take some ideas from this, build your own design. That's what I really want to see out of these videos, is just showing people ideas that you can do for these farms. Really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please let me know down in the comments if you have any questions, if you have anything that you really enjoyed, or if you decide to build your own design. I'd like to hear about it. I will talk to you later. Have a good one. Bye. Oh, shoot. I'm in the kill chamber. Get out. Get out. There we go. I mean, I'm creative. It wouldn't have mattered.